has underperformed so far in 3 games for the Browns? Reaction, overreaction.
That's tough because in my eyes,
It's not tough, Tony.
Yeah, come on.
What are you watching?
He's had one good game, which is the Minnesota game. I thought it's not the reason they lost. One bad game.
I'll let you answer.
Which I blame
let him answer the question.
on the game planning and the game management. And one game, which was this one. So, in my mind, he's underperformed. Okay,
Aaron.
but I don't think he's underperformed in their mind.
He's underperformed what you told me you were seeing in training camp. I know that.
I don't know what the Browns thought. They liked him enough to draft him with the 94th pick in the draft, and I think he's looked pretty much like a third-round rookie quarterback to me.
In his 3 games under these circumstances, he's looked better than the number 1 pick in the draft, Cam Ward.
You think Dillon Gabriel's outperformed Cam Ward?
Yeah. I mean, they're both.
They only have.
Look, I'm going to be straight with you right now. The debate around Dillon Gabriel versus Cam Ward has gotten completely out of hand, and we need to talk about it because what I'm seeing in the media is borderline disrespectful to both of these young quarterbacks. But more importantly, it's just flat out dishonest about what's actually happening on the football field. So Dillon Gabriel gets drafted by the Cleveland Browns in the 3rd round, 94th overall pick. He comes into a situation where he's got veteran support. He's got a head coach in Kevin Stefanski who's calling plays specifically designed for his skill set. He's getting first-team reps in preseason, and he's being groomed slowly but surely to be what the Browns want him to be. Meanwhile, Cam Ward goes first overall to the Tennessee Titans, walks into an absolute dumpster fire of a situation, and immediately gets thrown to the Wolves. His head coach gets fired before the season even really gets going. The offensive play calling is atrocious, and the entire weight of a rebuilding franchise is on his shoulders from day one. Now, I'm watching clips from Cleveland media, and I hear Tony Grossi saying that Dillon Gabriel has actually looked better than Cam Ward through their first few games. And I'm sitting there thinking, what game are we watching? Are we looking at the same sport? Because when you actually dig into what's happening, when you actually watch the tape and look beyond the surface level box score statistics, you start to see a completely different story emerge. Let's talk about the basic numbers first, because that's where most casual fans are gonna stop. Dillon Gabriel through 3 games has 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Cam Ward through 7 games has 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. On the surface, yeah, Gabriel looks more efficient. He's taking care of the football. He's not turning it over, and that matters. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that protecting the ball doesn't matter, because it absolutely does. But if that's where your analysis stops, you're not really analyzing anything. You're just reading numbers off a screen. The reality is that when you start looking at the advanced metrics, when you start examining the film, when you understand the context of what each quarterback is being asked to do within their respective offenses, the picture changes dramatically. And I mean dramatically. We're talking about night and day difference between these 2 players in terms of what they're actually doing on a football field. Dillon Gabriel's average depth of target this season is sitting at around 6.1 yards. That's not just low, that's one of the lowest in the entire league among qualified quarterbacks. And when I say qualified, I'm talking about guys who are actually taking meaningful snaps, not third stringers coming in for garbage time. Gabriel is consistently at the bottom of the league in terms of how far he's pushing the ball downfield. His average attempted air yards is 5.5 yards. 5.5. That's a full half yard below the next closest quarterback in Kyler Murray. And when you look at the data distribution, that gap represents a legitimate statistical outlier. What does that tell you? It tells you that the Browns' offense under Kevin Stefanski is designed to get the ball out of Gabriel's hands quickly, to limit his decision-making, to keep everything underneath and short. They're running an offense that looks more like what you'd see in college football with wider hash marks, where you can manipulate space easier, where you can run bubble screens and quick hitch routes and pray that your playmakers make something happen after the catch. But here's the problem with that strategy in the NFL. The hash marks are tighter, the windows are smaller, the defenders are faster and more athletic, and you can't just rely on scheme and talent disparity to win your matchups. When you look at Gabriel's longest completed air distance of the season, he's tied with Tyrod Taylor for the shortest among all starting quarterbacks. Think about that for a second. His longest completion downfield is shorter than any other starting quarterback in the league. That's not a one-game anomaly. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern. That's a quarterback who either can or won't push the ball vertically down the field. And that's a massive problem for any NFL offense that wants to be taken seriously. And here's where it gets even more damning. Gabriel's average yards to the sticks on third down is negative. Negative. That means on 3rd and 7, he's throwing routes that go for 5 yards. On 3rd and 9, he's checking it down for 6. He's consistently throwing underneath routes on 3rd down that don't give his team a legitimate chance to move the chains. That's not efficient football. That's not smart football. That's playing scared. That's a quarterback who's so afraid of making a mistake, so terrified of throwing an interception that he'd rather take the safe check down and punt than give his offense a chance to stay on the field. Now let's talk about Cam Ward, because this is where the comparison gets really interesting. Ward's situation in Tennessee is about as bad as it gets for a rookie quarterback. The Titans are in full rebuild mode, they're starting from scratch, and they threw their first overall pick directly into the fire with minimal support around him. His offensive line is one of the worst in football, his receiving core has been decimated by injuries, and the coaching staff that drafted him didn't even make it through the first half of the season. But despite all of that chaos, despite all of those obstacles, Ward is actually doing things on a football field that Gabriel simply cannot do. Ward's passer rating on open coverage throws is sitting at 98.5. That's not elite, but it's respectable, especially when you consider the circumstances. Gabriel's rating in those same situations is significantly lower, which tells you something important. Even when his receivers are open, even when the scheme creates opportunities, Gabriel isn't taking advantage of them at the same rate as other quarterbacks. He's leaving plays on the field because he either doesn't see them or doesn't trust himself to make the throw. When you watch Ward on film, you see a quarterback who's willing to take chances, who's willing to test coverage, who's got the arm talent to make throws that maybe 80% of quarterbacks in the league can't make. Yeah, he's made some mistakes. Yeah, he's thrown some interceptions, but he's also made plays that show you why he went first overall, plays that make you understand why scouts fell in love with this kid coming out of college. There's this play from earlier in the season where Ward's in the red zone, pressure's coming right up the middle, and instead of panicking, instead of taking a sack or throwing the ball away, he drifts in the pocket, keeps his eyes downfield, extends the play with his legs, and then makes a throw rolling to his right across his body back to his left. That's technically illegal in quarterback school. You're taught from day one never to throw back across your body like that. Because it's low percentage, it's dangerous. It puts the ball in harm's way. But Ward makes that throw, dots up his receiver in the end zone, and scores a touchdown. That's not something you can coach. That's not something you can scheme up. That's just pure talent and confidence. Another play, Ward's got play action. The pocket's clean for about 2 seconds before it starts collapsing, and he steps up, plants his feet, and uncorks a throw from his own 30-yard line to the opponent's 30-yard line. 40 yards in the air across his body again, drops it right in the bucket for his receiver, who makes a contested catch. That's NFL quarterback play right there. That's the kind of throw that wins you games in this league. And when I go looking for examples of Dillon Gabriel making throws like that, I come up empty. Not because I'm biased, not because I'm trying to tear Gabriel down, but because those throws literally don't exist on his film this season. Gabriel's longest completion is something like 38 yards, and even that was more yards after catch than actual air yards. He's not pushing the ball vertically, he's not testing coverage deep, he's not giving his receivers chances to make plays downfield. And when your quarterback won't attack vertically, when defenses know they can sit on your short routes and force you to dink and dunk your way down the field, your offense becomes predictable. It becomes easy to defend. It becomes exactly what we've seen from the Browns this season, which is an offense that sputters out in the red zone, that can't sustain drives, that goes 3 and out way too often for a team with this much talent on the roster. Now, I want to be clear about something, because I don't want this to come across as me just trashing Dillon Gabriel for no reason. I actually think Gabriel can be a solid NFL quarterback with the right coaching and the right system around him. I think he's got accuracy on short and intermediate routes. I think he's got enough mobility to extend plays when the pocket breaks down, and I think he's shown enough in his limited playing time to justify the Browns investing a 3rd-round pick in him. But comparing him to Cam Ward at this stage of their careers, saying that Gabriel has has looked better than Ward through their first few games, that's just not supported by the film or the advanced metrics. Ward is being asked to do so much more within his offense. He's being asked to make plays outside of structure, to extend drives with his arm and his legs, to carry an offense that has very little help around him. Gabriel is being asked to execute a game plan, to take what the defense gives him, to not lose the game for his team. Those are fundamentally different roles, and when you factor in the supporting cast differences, the coaching differences, the organizational stability differences, it's not even close in terms of degree of difficulty. The Browns have a defense that can keep them in games. They've got playmakers like Amari Cooper and David Njoku who can create separation and make contested catches. They've got a running game that takes pressure off their quarterback. Gabriel is in a situation where he can succeed by playing conservative, mistake-free football because his team has other ways to win games. The Titans have none of that. Ward has to be the offense. If he's not making plays, if he's not moving the ball downfield, his team has zero chance of winning. And yeah, that's led to some turnovers, that's led to some ugly stat lines, but it's also led to flashes of brilliance that show you what this kid can become with better pieces around him. I keep hearing people compare Ward to Will Levis, and I get it because they're both Titans quarterbacks taken high in the draft who've struggled early in their careers. But the comparison falls apart when you actually watch them play. Levis played behind a better offensive line, had better weapons, and was in a more stable situation organizationally. Ward is dealing with more chaos than almost any rookie quarterback in recent memory, and he's still finding ways to make impressive throws and keep his team competitive in games they have no business being competitive in. When Kevin Stefanski was asked about how the Browns' offense can create more explosive plays in the passing game, his answer was basically that they don't need to push the ball downfield. They can create explosives with short throws that turn into long gains. And on paper, that sounds fine. The Chiefs do that with Andy Reid's scheme and guys like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce making plays after the catch. But the problem is that the Browns don't have those kinds of game-breaking playmakers. And even if they did, you can't build an entire offense around hoping your receivers break tackles and turn 5-yard catches into 20-yard gains. That's not a sustainable offensive philosophy in today's NFL. The hashmark differences between college and the NFL fundamentally change how you can attack a defense. In college, the hashes are wider, which means when you're on one hash, you have a massive field to work with on the opposite side. You can run one side of the field concepts and overwhelm defenses with space. In the NFL, the hashes are much tighter, which means you have to be able to attack both sides of the field. You have to be able to work middle of the field concepts, and you have to have a quarterback who can make throws into tighter windows. Gabriel's college tape shows a quarterback who thrived in that wide hash environment, but his NFL tape shows a quarterback who hasn't adjusted to the tighter windows and reduced space yet. The turnover-worthy play rate tells another part of this story. Gabriel might not have thrown any interceptions yet, but he's been dropping the ball into dangerous spots at a rate that ranks near the bottom of the league among quarterbacks. He's 49th out of 58 qualified quarterbacks in terms of how often he's putting the ball in harm's way. That means he's been lucky that defenders have dropped potential interceptions, or that his receivers have bailed him out of bad throws. That luck won't hold forever, and when it runs out, we're going to see that interception number start climbing. Meanwhile, Ward's interceptions have been a mixed bag. Some of them have been bad decisions, rookie mistakes where he's forcing throws into coverage or not seeing a defender lurking underneath a route. But others have been desperation throws where he's trying to make something happen on 3rd and long, or where his receiver ran the wrong route, or where his offensive line completely broke down and he had to get rid of the ball. Context matters, and when you're playing from behind constantly, when you're trying to drag a bad team to respectability, you're gonna take more risks. Those risks sometimes pay off with huge plays, and sometimes they result in turnovers. That's the nature of playing aggressive quarterback in a bad situation. I think what frustrates me most about the Gabriel versus Ward debate is that it's symptomatic of a larger problem in how we evaluate quarterbacks in this league. We're so obsessed with completion percentage and interception numbers and other clean, easy to understand statistics that we forget to actually watch the games and understand what's happening on the field. We forget to ask questions like, what is this quarterback being asked to do? What's his supporting cast look like? What's the coaching situation? What's the offensive scheme? All of those contextual factors matter matter way more than a raw touchdown to interception ratio, but they don't fit neatly into a tweet or a hot take, so they get ignored. Gabriel has looked like exactly what he is, a third-round rookie quarterback playing in a conservative offense designed to minimize his mistakes. He's been fine. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been terrible. He's been fine. Ward has looked like exactly what he is, a first overall pick playing in an offense that's asking him to be Patrick Mahomes when he's got a supporting cast that wouldn't crack most teams' practice squad. He's been inconsistent, he's made mistakes, but he's also made throws that 95% of quarterbacks in the league can't make. The idea that Gabriel has somehow outplayed Ward because he has fewer interceptions and a better completion percentage is absurd when you factor in everything else. It's like comparing a punt returner who always calls for a fair catch to a punt returner who actually tries to return punts and sometimes fumbles. Yeah, the fair catch guy has better ball security numbers, but he's also not providing any value to his team. Gabriel's conservative approach has kept his interception total at 0, but it's also made the Browns' offense one of the most predictable and easy to defend units in football. Look, both of these guys are rookies, both of them are still learning, and both of them are going to get better as they get more reps and more experience. I'm not writing off Dillon Gabriel's career after 3 games, and I'm not crowning Cam Ward as the next great quarterback after 7 games. What I'm saying is that if you're going to compare them, if you're going to make declarative statements about who's looked better, you better be looking at more than just the box score, because the box score is lying to you. Ward is showing first overall pick arm talent. He's making throws that make you sit up in your chair and rewind the play because you can't believe what you just saw. Gabriel is showing third-round pick game management. He's executing a conservative game plan and not making big mistakes. Those are both valuable skills for NFL quarterbacks to have, but they're not the same tier of player right now, and pretending otherwise is doing a disservice to both of them. The Browns drafted Gabriel to be a backup who could step in and run their system if needed. The Titans drafted Ward to be a franchise cornerstone who could elevate everyone around him. So far, both guys are doing exactly what their teams drafted them to do. Gabriel is being a competent backup who doesn't lose games. Ward is being a high-ceiling developmental prospect who's going to have some growing pains but flashes elite potential. Neither of those things is bad, but they're not comparable situations. I think what we're seeing with the Gabriel hype is a combination of Cleveland media being desperate for good quarterback news after years of disappointment, and a general lack of understanding about what actually makes a quarterback successful in the NFL. It's easy to look at 0 interceptions and think everything's going great. It's harder to recognize that a quarterback who won't throw the ball past 10 yards is creating a ceiling for your offense that you can't break through no matter how good your defense or running game is. When Tony Grossi says Gabriel has looked better than Ward, what he's really saying is that Gabriel has made fewer obvious mistakes. And sure, that's true, but football isn't golf. You don't win by making the fewest mistakes. You win by making more plays than the other team. And right now, Cam Ward is making way more plays than Dillon Gabriel, even if some of those plays are coming with turnovers attached. The statistical outliers tell the whole story if you're willing to look at them honestly. Gabriel's average depth of target being a half yard below the next closest quarterback isn't just a fun fact, it's a red flag that his offense is fundamentally limited. His longest completion being tied for shortest in the league isn't bad luck. It's a pattern of play that suggests he either can't or won't attack downfield. His average yards to the sticks being negative on third down isn't a scheme issue. It's a quarterback not giving his team a chance to convert. Compare that to Ward, who's out here throwing lasers into tight windows, extending plays with his legs, making off-platform throws that keep drives alive, and generally doing everything you want to see from a quarterback with franchise potential. Yeah, he's turning it over too much. Yeah, he's taking too many sacks sometimes. But he's also showing you skills that you absolutely cannot teach. Skills that separate good quarterbacks from great ones. I'm not saying Ward is going to be a Hall of Famer or that Gabriel is going to be a bust. What I'm saying is that right now, today, through their first few games as professionals, Cam Ward has shown more of what NFL teams are looking for in a franchise quarterback than Dillon Gabriel has. And if you can't see that, if you're still stuck on completion percentage and interception numbers, then you're not really watching football, you're just reading box scores and calling it analysis. The bottom line is this: context matters, supporting cast matters, scheme matters. What a quarterback is being asked to do within his offense matters. And when you account for all of those things, when you actually watch the tape and dig into the advanced metrics, it becomes clear that comparing Dillon Gabriel to Cam Ward at this point in their careers is fundamentally unfair to both guys because they're in completely different situations being asked to do completely different things. Gabriel is a fine quarterback who's doing what his team needs him to do, which is manage games and not turn the ball over. Ward is a potentially elite quarterback who's being thrown into an impossible situation and still finding ways to make plays that show you why he went first overall. Neither of those things is wrong, but they're not the same tier of player right now, and trying to argue otherwise is just dishonest football analysis driven by whatever narrative people want to push rather than what's actually happening on the field.